Hey there, Delilah. What's it? Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you, D? You holding up well? Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I can't. I'm so glad to hear that. Hey, listen, Delilah. The reason I called, I was just, I know you've been in New York City for like what, a couple of years now. So I was just wondering, like, maybe reach out and just want to say, hey there, Delilah. What is it like in New York City? Because I was thinking about moving, and I figured I'd consult you. You know. Maybe a different time? Okay, yeah, no, I would love to chat it up with you, find out what New York is like. See you later, Delilah. Look at us. Starting a podcast like we've never started before. With a bit? What? It's unbelievable. I've been thinking about doing that for like a month and a half now. Probably longer actually. But I had an intro for my podcast. I always say, "Welcome to I'm Doing Well. This is my podcast." And then I added something to it a couple weeks ago where I say, "I'm doing well. I hope you are too." But I found with an intro, you got to do the intro, so you can't do like a bit. That was what was nice about like I had that Wilt series, that I talk about, and with the Wilts, the intro was always like a cold open. Is that what they call them? It's like a little skit, and I always thought of them like right before I recorded it. And it was fun, and so I've been like thinking about things for this podcast, but then I'm like, well, if I do that, then I don't have an intro. And then there's not consistency. Excuse me. And everyone preaches in this media world or like in this social media thing. With branding, you got to be consistent. So when you pop up, or like your brand is easily identifiable, um, you remember it. Like a lot of YouTubers I watch, they'll have an outro, or not an outro, but like an end card with like, oh, check out these videos and then subscribe to my channel. Like I have an end card on my YouTube videos. And a lot of the time, the YouTubers I watch have the same song in their outro. And it's weird. I find myself like when it's nearing the end of the video, like expecting to hear that song. And now anytime, I would hear that song, which wouldn't be um, a frequent time because it's usually non-copyrighted music that they found or made themselves because if they use copyrighted music then there goes the whole video's revenue, then they can't make a living off of it. So usually the music is something they've made or they've found that's non-copyright, so the chance of me sing it somewhere else are low. But if I ever do hear it somewhere else, I immediately think, oh, that person, because it's their brand. And so deviating away from something that is your brand, um, strays away from that idea of consistent branding, which everyone, preaches about. And so me not doing the classic four line intro that I do with this podcast didn't seem like a possibility. But hey, guess what? I just did it. And really, there's no there's no downside. It worked out. Look, if you're still listening, hey, look, you're still listening. So, the scariest thing, I don't know if I've talked about it here, or, it's been hinted at heavily. You probably gathered this from listening to this podcast. Like, change is one of the scariest things. I think for most people, right, even if they don't admit it or realize it themselves, there's probably a subconscious thing at play when they're forced to change something in their lives, like, oh, going to a new school, meeting a new person. That's a very, meeting a new person, that's like, maybe not in the quarantine, is very frequent, but, meeting a new person, that's like an everyday thing, you know. Whereas like going to a new school, maybe that's a once every how many years thing. So that change is probably, the change that registers as a change to most people. But if you think about it, like there's so many little changes every day. Like talking to a new person, you gotta change how you talk for that one interaction. You'll still be you, but you know, there's some improv. There's some, you got to read the moment and then change on the fly. So it's weird, like someone that's so, I feel like probably, against change. Um, I've found the most success when things are changing. And I've only found that when things are changing in my life is when it's going the best. And so, it's weird that I would be so resistant to change because the effects are so fruitful, right? I can't really quantify them. I can't like point to like put anything in an Excel document and be like, well, you see, made this change in this year, and then look at these effects it had. I don't think I can do that, but it's just like a feeling, and you realize it more in the moment. It's hard to maybe retroactively come to a conclusion, but even though they say hindsight's 2020, but unless you record that positive, I think it's hard to remember. It's the same thing when you are doing a multiple choice test and you break it down to a 50-50. Let's say there's four options. Two of them are ridiculous. There's no way it could be B or D, right? So now you're stuck between A and C. And I've always said, I'm the guy that always picks the wrong one, you know? But the thing is, maybe everyone thinks they're that way because you only remember when things go bad. Because you get your test back and you see, you got that one wrong and you're like, of course I did. I always get the 50-50 wrong. But the thing is, you've probably gotten, probably gotten 50-50s right. But when I get back my test, they're not like identified and, explicitly like pointed out that, oh, remember that 50-50? Well, you got it, you know? So that's why I feel like I don't remember all the good things that change brings, only the bad things. It's that same thing that people talk about, right? Like, at least through the social media world is where the best example comes to mind. You could read arbitrary number, you could read 50 positive, amazing comments, but you could read one comment that says something just even slightly bad, and it could just, those 50 comments never happened. You're just, in a world of pain mentally. I mean, not anymore. Like you get better at it. Like, anytime I see any kind of like negative, um, well, it's hard to say because like I don't really have, like, I'm not at the level where there's anyone saying really bad stuff about me. Like, I've gotten some stuff like there. There's a DM I got. I can say this because I want to. This guy, I made this day in the life video like 2 years ago, probably like 2 years. I think in like a couple weeks it'll be 2 years. I made that day in the life video as a freshman at UC Davis, and I remember this guy like I always post on my Instagram story. I'm like, new video. I remember I posted on my Instagram story for that video, and this guy DM me, and he was like, "This is gay. Unfollowed, unsubscribed. Uh, you're a loser, heady." I don't even know what a heady is. I hope that's not a bad word. But that's I mean, like, sometimes that's, you might get one of those. I don't know. I'm not at the level where like that's coming in at any kind of a crazy rate. But those things can really tear you apart if you're not used to it. I think the more applicable example to me is like dislikes on a video. I remember getting like my first dislikes on a video. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard to deal with mentally. You think you've done everything wrong in the world. You think you're a criminal. You're like, oh, I made the biggest mistake. Any doubt you had in your mind is immediately validated by that dislike. Um, because you're like, a dislike is so like ominous or it's so unknown, right? You don't know why they disliked it. The funniest part is they could have disliked it because they misclicked. But to you, you're like, oh my God, it is because I did that one thing. I knew I was going to get flagged for that, or dinged for that, you know? But you have no idea. And then you create the false stories in your own head, and then that's where you start tearing yourself apart. But now, like with every video I make, I expect there to be dislikes. So now there's, I'm actually always surprised when I make a YouTube video and it doesn't get dislikes. I remember I made this video reacting to this email that UC Davis sent us during last summer, telling us like, oh, this is what to expect in fall. And the email didn't really say anything. So I just broke down the email. And I remember that video relatively blew up, you know, like in the first week, I think it had 2.5 to 3,000 views, because it was so topical in that moment of time. Because everyone was questioning, like, oh yeah, what is going to happen in fall? Is anyone else realizing these emails are very wordy, but not saying anything? So when I made the video expressing that, yes, they are very wordy, and no, they don't say anything, it got, you know, the ember caught aflame, and people saw what was happening. But because I was, I guess, critical of something, in that case, UC Davis's communication, I was like, oh, this is going to get disliked for sure by someone. And it wasn't, I think it went a solid like 2 or 3 weeks before getting a dislike, which is a shock to me. And so that's where I am at now. When something doesn't get disliked, I'm like, I guess not enough people saw it. I guess, because surely, like, with a big enough sample size, there has to be someone in there that doesn't like it. And it's still true, even if you don't get dislikes, that there can be someone in the crowd that doesn't like it. They just don't take it to the level of like pressing the dislike button. Like I've disliked things on YouTube, not pressing the button, but just like personally, like I didn't like that video. But I never press the dislike button because that's ridiculous. So, yeah, change, right? It's weird. It's hard to articulate to some people. Well, there's no real way to articulate it, but there's a thing I wish sometimes people got. Just because I'm just gonna say personally, maybe you feel the same way. Just because I complain about something doesn't mean I like care about it. Like change, or just because I complain about something doesn't mean I'm like completely resistant to it. I think I need to explain this idea more. Um, the example I've seen is like, or maybe like you can relate to this, right? If you've ever worked, you know, you get assigned a task or something and it's work. So in your mind, you're like, oh, this sucks, but you still do it. And maybe it doesn't even suck, but you're just like, oh, I have to do a thing. I think now I'm realizing a good example for me is maybe YouTube videos. I complain about editing a lot. And so if you complain about something, a very simple response is, oh, well, you don't like doing something, stop doing it. But the thing is, oh no, I like it. I like editing, I like making the videos. But there are points when editing gets tedious and like you don't like it. I mean, even like professional sports players, right? It's like them complaining about a workout. They still love the game. They've, you know, dedicated their life to the game. But that doesn't mean they don't have things to complain about. And so, you know, as much as I talk about, oh, I don't like change, I welcome change. And I've actually found that in my life, once again, restating my thesis at the end of the essay. Anytime there is change, it's usually, on the other end of it, I find myself in a better place. So yeah, I didn't do my classic intro, and I don't think that's a problem that I changed it up. I think it's a good thing. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't. This is another one of those things. Like, I didn't know I was going to talk about this. All I knew I was going to do that phone bit. That's all. Actually, that's all I knew I was going to do. So, I'm back in Davis, as you can see right now. Look who returned. Our good old friend. Look at that. Oh, good old character from the first 3 episodes of this podcast. I realized, thinking about this cup, that I used it as a crutch for the first 3 episodes. You know when people are in an interview, they do that thing, right? Or it's hard to do because an interviewer knows this. You have a, water bottle, we'll say. And at the end of their question, you pick it up and start drinking it. You don't want to pick it up and drink it after they've asked the question. There has to be some overlap, So it doesn't seem like you're just buying time. But that's exactly what you're doing. So what you have to do is, like, when they're nearing the end, you get the gist of their question. That's when you go in for the sip. Buys you like maybe 4 or 5 extra seconds. You got to drink and swallow, then you tap your face and say excuse me or whatever. And then you restate their question and you're like, so the question was this. And I think my answer to that question. And then boom, you got like 7 to 9 seconds, right? So I realized that cup, I think I was using it as a crutch in the first 3 episodes because I really don't drink water or anything. I know back in Roseville, I was drinking, sometimes from bottles that look like this, but they were lime green or blue or whatever. I have a lot of these bottles. But that was just because I actually was getting parched. But then I found for the past few podcasts, like, I don't really need to go to the water. Like, I can talk for 45 minutes. No biggie. So yeah, I actually found it when I took that drink about a minute or 2 ago. It kind of like took me out of it, I was like, oh, here I'm drinking water on camera. So yeah, I guess, we're going to have to kill off that character, It was great while it lasted. I think it was a great season 1 character. But now, hey, look at us. Episode 15. We've matured. We're coming back stronger than ever. I just posted my UC mascot tier list video. And it's doing really well so far. I'm really happy with it. And that's another thing, changing the content a little bit. It still is involving college stuff, but it's going outside the scope of Davis. I don't think I've ever really talked about this, like, to multiple people, but it comes up in sometimes one-on-one conversations. The idea of, like, the direction of my content and stuff. And I've been growing very steadily for the past 4 years that I've been doing this. And it's just been really consistent, But there's never been like a big boom. And that totally makes sense because all of the content I make is entirely like, in that Davis niche. And so the only people it applies to is like this finite number of people. It doesn't have a broader audience than whoever is involved in UC Davis. And then it grows every year because more people become students and every year people become alumni. So it's like same thing as like people, this is a terrible analogy, but like the alumni are the people that die and then the people that get accepted are like the babies. And we're getting more babies than people graduating, right? So the population is growing. I'm not saying that's why the population of my channel is going. Of course, there's people that watch my channel that don't even go to Davis, but that certainly plays into the trend of it because Davis is such a big part of my channel. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I have seen, consistent growth, but it hasn't been anything big. Like I said, no big booms. Nothing's really gone like crazy. My most viewed video, it just hit 19,000 views. Congrats, us, by the ways. But it was a serious UC Davis dorm tour, which I think it just turned, let's see, I think it just turned 3 years old, which is great. But yeah, I've only been able to, for lack of a better term, expose myself to the Davis audience. And so this summer, we're going to see it a little more. I'm jumping into kind of a newer niche. You'll see. And I think that will allow there to be some bigger booms in the channel. We'll see. I have a plan. I've been thinking about this for quite some time. And the good thing is, like, I'm not graduating this year. I'm graduating, like, this time next year. So I still have a year at Davis, But luckily, I think I'll have some time this summer. Only got to wrap up a few more classes in the time I have at Davis next school year. So, there's enough time to really still make the Davis content that I want to make. But then this summer, do some experimenting and see these kind of booms. And this UC mascot video, once again, it's still college related, whatever, but it wasn't Davis related. So it's kind of, branching out a little bit. Still the same niche, college, but not the Davis niche. Now it's all colleges. Like I saw someone, I think from like Berkeley, and I think like Santa Cruz commented on my video or whatever. Those people wouldn't have never found me had I not made that video. So the numbers are doing great. It's an enticing video. I would have watched it. Actually, I did watch it, but that's because it's me. But I think I would have watched it if someone else made it. UC mascot tier list. And I got to give a big shout out to Kuhu. Kuhu is the one that, at the beginning of the mascot video, I say, a friend of mine from Berkeley. That's Kuhu. Kuhu's in my Discord server. And she messaged me and was like, oh, the CS org at Berkeley. I don't know if I'm doxing you, Kuhu, so I'm sorry if you didn't want this out there, but I think it's very tame information. She's like, this, CS org at, also Berkeley calls clubs orgs. Come on, guys. You already go to Berkeley. You don't need to be this pretentious about it. Yeah, I'm part of an organization. You're like, oh, is it like you like help the homeless or whatever? They're like, well, no, we code. And you're like, oh, like for the greater good? Like, what do you mean you code? Like, is that seems more of like a hobby, a job? What are you doing? And they're like, well, no, I'm in an org. It's like a club. And they're like, oh, so you're in a club. And they're like, well, yeah, but we call it, no, you're in a club. You're in a club. So this computer science club at Berkeley made the tier list that I showed in that video. And Kuhu was like, this, I thought you'd find it interesting. And immediately I was like, oh my God, that is such a good video idea. So first thing I did was I went on YouTube and I searched UC tier list. And I think there are some tier list videos about college. I mean, I know there are. But no one did a mascot tier list video. And immediately I was like, oh my God, Kuhu, we struck gold. This is such a good idea. And no one's done it before. So I'm glad. I hope I'm not missing anyone. Because I'm going to say a very bold claim here. But I'm glad I got to be the first one to do it. I think it's quality. So, yeah. I'm glad. It's so rare to think of something that no one's ever done before. And so when you do it, oh, it's so fulfilling. I feel like I haven't felt good, about it's that same feeling about the UC Davis show. You know, I started not feeling good because I didn't think the content was original. And so it's cool that I got to make original content. It's made me feel so good because I know it's original. It's to me when you make an original thing, to me it shows, and maybe this is just me, I feel like the audience appreciates you more because they're like, oh, he's not just doing what other people are doing. He actually brought something new to the table. I think it's that. It's that it shows people that, oh, yes, you can have original ideas. And then it's funny because it's not even like I had it. It's to Kuhu's credit. She's the one that sent it to me. So I'm just really, really psyched that I made something original. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. Now, I don't have, this was spring break. Spring break's over now, which is complete bullshit, dog shit, horse shit. So there wasn't that much to happen. I got some rest, which is cool. But in terms of like coming up with things to talk about, there wasn't too much. But I think there's enough to get us to the end. If not, I'll get something. From where? I don't know. Somewhere near. Oh. Oh. The hair has been a journey, by the way. I like my longer hair, but I've told everyone, or not everyone, but I've told many people. I've told a handful of people, okay, get off my back, that anyone that's grown up with long hair, like they've always had long hair, if they ever cut their hair short, I guarantee they wouldn't go back. It is so convenient. You know when you shower and you like dry yourself? You know how your body is dry? I'm talking to all my long haired folks. You know how your body's dry, but then your hair is wet? When you have short hair, when you dry your body, it's dry. You're just completely dry. Your head is not wet at all. Like now it takes me like about an hour and a half before my hair dries. But we're talking like, you dry it up. You step out of the bathroom, you're sandpaper. Dry as hell. So it's so much more convenient, incredibly convenient having short hair. But I like how the long hair looks. My mom said, she's like, I like the long hair too. Makes you look older. I was like, oh. All right, maybe I will cut it because my youthful charm is really what brings people in. No, I do I like the long hair. For now. We'll see. It's, again, that resistance to change. Look how full circle we've come. I had these glasses that I've been wearing for the past, however long. It must have been, I think I kept the same frame all of high school. And I think that came from middle school. And in college, when I was a freshman, had the same frame. And then I think my second year of college, it was like a month before Christmas. So 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago or whatever, I got a new frame and it's bigger. And I was so against it. I was like, no, I want to keep my frame. Like, that's what people know. It's that same thing. I felt like I was going through a forced rebranding. I was like, people know that Gauruv. I get bigger frames. Now people are like, what's going on here? Is this his new style? But realistically, no one noticed except me, and it made me happier. And I like actually the bigger frames because it actually shows my whole eye now. So that's the thing. The change always works out, but I'm always resistant to it. I don't want to also discredit bad change. If I started smoking cigarettes, obviously, it's not going to be all good. I might get new friends, new smoking friends. That's great, but I don't think in terms of my health it'd be that great. Like maybe mental health, great, more friends. Lung health, maybe not that great. And I don't know about you, but I feel like lung health slightly more important than like mental health. I don't want to discredit mental health, but I'm talking about like having friends. I think your lungs health is more important than having friends. There's a lot of things that go into mental health. Having friends is one of them, but your lung health, smoking can just cut that out. I don't know. What am I on about? What are you on about, mate? So, yeah, I've gone through a style change since high school. Believe it or not, wow. Who would have thought? It's not like it happens to pretty much everyone when they go to college. Even if people, remain the same, they still like wear everything. You just grow up, right? It's just part of like humans. That's a human thing. Anyways, I've been walking around campus. I like to go on walks when I'm in Davis. It's it's really nice weather, and I usually go walking like around campus. And so I was walking around campus earlier this week, and I noticed there's just so much construction. Like all these streets got, roadblock signs, whatever. And I walked past, you know, this cafe by the, what is it, the student community center? Yeah, there's this little cafe there. And next to it, to the right, there's all these buildings that have been under construction since I've been at Davis. When I was a freshman, they weren't under construction, but it was just a big sandy lot. And then for the past 2 years, it's been undergoing construction. And that's finally done. It's not done, but it's like not just a sandy plot. I took a picture here. You can see it. Now there's a straight shot to Shields, our library. And I was talking to my mom about this, how, you know, people that come in these next year or next 2 years, whatever, let's just say 5 years to be safe. In 5 years, people will walk down, that straightaway to the library, and that will just be normal. They won't even have thought that this could have been anything else. This is the world that exists to them. And to me, every time I walk down that straightaway, I'm gonna think about how, oh my God, this used to be sand. To me, it'll always be like, these are those three new buildings. Whereas to someone in 5 years, it'll be, oh, well, this is Walker Hall, or this is that building, In the same way that when I was a freshman, the plot of land that is now California Hall was just a bunch of, yeah, dirt. But now it's California Hall. I've had multiple classes in California Hall. In my Wilt series, you can see the progression of California Hall. If you watch that series, I don't know if you remember, but I took a picture of it when it was a plot of land. Actually, in that day in the life video I was talking about, I talk about how in the vlog I'm riding my bike past it when they're constructing it. And then when I made that video, I had a class in that hall. So it's crazy. But I will always think of California Hall as like a new hall. But to someone in 5 years, it'll be normal. And so I brought this up with my mom because I realized there's people in my life now that only know me as this, my physical appearance being this. There are some people in my life that only know me having long hair and facial hair, which is crazy because a majority of the people in my life know me from, when I look like this, when I had short hair and no facial hair. And so in the same way that a building will be normal, this is just how it is. And I think of it, being an empty sand plot. In the same way that happens, there are people that are like, oh yeah, this is just Gauruv. But there are most people, I would say, that are like, oh, well, this is like Gauruv's new look. Like to me, I'm like, this is my new look. And so it's so weird to me to think that in the past year, I've been introduced to new people and this is Gauruv to them, which is crazy because that's not what I think. Like, to me, this is Gauruv doing a new style. But whenever I think Gauruv, I think short hair, no facial hair. Just as I suppose a majority of the people that know me think of it too. Like, I wouldn't get comments ever when I had short hair that are like, oh, I like the hair, because it's just normal. It's like, oh, this is what this guy looks like. But over the past year, I have been getting numerous comments where it's like, hey, by the ways, subpar video, but by the ways, the hair looks great. And that's because it's a new thing. If something's not new, you don't really feel like you need to comment on it. Like if a building gets reconstructed and now instead of a steel wall, it's a brick wall, people will be like, oh my God, I love the brick wall. But if a brick wall was a brick wall to start, I feel like no one's going to be like, oh, well, that's a nice brick wall. Because to them, it's just a wall. But if it went from, steel or metal or whatever I said to brick, now it's a new wall. And then you have to, I don't know, is it a human thing? We like to acknowledge, I'm not saying this matter of factly, like, yes, humans like to do this, but I'm saying it thinking out loud, like, do humans feel the need when something is new to be like, hey, look at that, huh? So yeah. That idea of like something being normal to someone, but it being new to someone else is very interesting to me. And I feel like there's a lot behind that. That was like the first thing I had written down this week, The second thing I had written down was I was talking to a friend of mine, Hoyer, I've mentioned him multiple times on this podcast. I was talking to Hoyer and I was saying, isn't it crazy how, this isn't what I was saying, but it's hard to tell you the context. Like I was saying it as a joke. No, it is a joke. Let me just tell you what I said. I was just making the point that when you're logging into a website and you enter your username and your password and then it comes up with the like CAPTCHA thing or the reCAPTCHA or whatever it's called, where it's like, which of these pictures have traffic lights? And you're like, oh, I got this. And you're like, you missed one. You're like, what? And you go back and you look, and you're like, oh, it's in the corner. These tricky robots. But I was talking about how when you enter your username, you enter your password, and they bring up the CAPTCHA thing, and you do it just for them to be like, oh, well, you got your password wrong. And you're like, well, then why'd you make me do the... Why did you make me play the puzzle game? Why didn't you just tell me it was wrong before I proved I was a human being? And we were both talking about how it's like both stupid and interesting how you got to enter your password. Because that's the thing, when you enter the password and it comes up with the CAPTCHA thing, in my head, I'm like, oh, dope, I got my password right. And it's such a sucker punch for them to be like, which of these contains railroads? And you're like, okay. And they're like, well, remember when you entered your password? You really fucked it up. You didn't get it right, man. Go through that again, and we got a new quiz for you. Which of these contains a cat? And you're like, okay. I'm just going to make a new account. You know what? Fuck you. You do it in spite of the website. Oh, you want to play me website? How about this? I make a new account. And they're like, well, your other account had a premium subscription. You're like, yeah, but I'm done with your games, robot. I'm my own man. And that's why it's my decision to go make a new account. Okay, don't think you got one over me. Okay? This is me making my own decision. The Roundtable video is doing well. It's picked up speed. It's been, I think a week and a half now. It's hit 1,000 views. It hit 1,000 views today. How dope is that? Also, I felt like last week in the podcast, I want to say, uh, you know, I was like, oh yeah, the video's up, woo, and it was like I was saying it like sarcastically. I hope I didn't like discredit anyone that was in the round table. I need to state it here. I'm very appreciative uh, of all the people on the round table. You guys did such a good job. It's all about me, um, like thinking it's not good enough. You guys did a great job because last week I talked about like, oh, am I happy with it? Well, I don't know. And then I realized watching it back, oh, that might have come across as a slight on the cast. But I just want to say here, the cast, you guys did phenomenal. You all did a really good job. The not feeling like it was good enough, that's me. Like just spending hours editing it and like things I said that could have been better on my end. So if there's any inadequacies, that's on my end. You guys did a great job. So I hope I didn't make anyone feel bad by saying that. And the other thing, like I said last time, or last podcast, was when people ask the general question, like, oh, is a college good? And I said that was objectively stupid. I don't know why I said that. I don't believe that. I think what I should have said, or like, I guess what I meant to say that would have communicated what I was trying to get across better, was that the question is not objectively stupid. It's the question is ineffective because I don't think the question is accomplishing what you want it to do. So that's why it's not a stupid question. I just think it's ineffective because it's not going to get the results I think you want. And that's why I'm like, I think there's a different question that they're meaning to ask, but it's coming through this ineffective vehicle of a general broad question saying, is this thing good? So, yeah. I watched the last week's podcast and I was like, God, who shit in this guy's cereal? Why is he so why is he so anti everything? So another point I wanted to make was I didn't say the classic line. One of my like favorite, I was talking about how ridiculous college prestige is years after you've done it. The thing I didn't say, I put it in the description of that video, but I want to say here, like, getting into college is just about how cool of a high schooler you were or how cool of a teenager you were, middle school through high school. And so it's weird that that carries throughout your entire life because getting in, it's like, how cool of a teenager were you? And then at that point, just don't drop out, don't fail out of the college, and then boom. And so as long as you don't fail, as long as you don't flunk, as long as you don't drop out, really the college you went to is about how cool of a teenager you were. Of course, each college's community and culture shapes you into the adult you become. I'm not saying in all cases, but in most cases, right? And so, if you are a product of Harvard, if you are a product of Stanford, sure, you're cut from more of that cloth, but that's nurture. And I think nature takes over more, which is, who are you personally? And so to give nurture, that college's effect on you so much credit, to me was so ridiculous. Because in the end, I think when you're looking for an employee, it's more about their nature, aka like how cool of a high schooler they were, right? I don't think college can erase the entire nature of a person. And so that's why like giving it so much credit is such a, I don't know, I think the idea is like one big fallacy in my eyes. Anyways, we're starting spring quarter. After that is summer. Looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate the support on the channel recently. It means so much. All your comments, always the best. And thanks for listening to the podcast. I feel it's so much more comfortable doing the podcast, I feel. And again, that's in large part because of the listeners. You guys make me feel comfortable. So any discomfort that is conveyed through this podcast is from me. I am the root of all discomfort that shines through this. So I just want to say you guys are the thing that helps me find that comfort. So thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. And yeah, I hope you have a good week. I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.